Okay, so we're looking at macroeconomic equilibrium in the classical view. Remember, classical economists are sometimes called monetarists. We're going to stick with the term classical, rather than confuse the topic. But sometimes in another economics textbook down the road, you might see them called monetarists. Classical economists believe that aggregate demand is a product of consumption, investment, government, and net exports. In that way, they do not differ from Keynesians. Where they differ from Keynesians is in their view of aggregate supply. They believe that there's two different phases of aggregate supply: the short run of aggregate supply and the long run of aggregate supply. In the short run, meaning in the near term, and they don't specify a specific length of time, it could be in the next month, the next quarter, the next year, they believe that prices are fairly fixed. Prices of resources, so land, labor, capital, and technology, are fairly fixed. And as average price level goes up in a macroeconomy, then more profit is possible, and therefore output will expand, and that explains why it slopes up to the right. Classical economists also believe, though, that in the long run, that output is fixed at a certain amount, because as prices increase and there's incentive for suppliers to supply more product because of greater potential for profit, wages will also increase, and the price of labor, that is the same thing, and the price of land, the price of storefronts, the price of capital, all prices will go up. Eventually, any increase in profits because of rising prices are canceled out by increases in the prices of resources. In other words, there is no incentive to make more as prices go up, because over time, in the long run, increases in prices of product in the product market will be canceled out by increases in prices in the factor market. This is another way of saying the long-run aggregate supply curve is fixed right on our production possibilities curve. Right, so you can have a lot of different kinds of output. This GDP could be made up of all different kinds of products, but the maximum GDP is going to be fixed in the long run. The only way you will ever really get real growth in the long run in a classical model is if you increase long-run aggregate supply to the right. You can't get growth from increasing price levels. Increasing price levels will not, in the long run, encourage output to expand. It might in the short run, but in the long run, we'll always come back to a fixed amount of potential output. In the next screencast, we'll see why that is.